In this multidimensional world, much of which is invisible to the eye, a group of non-physical entities have come here to expand our knowledge of how the universe works. These non-physical teachers are called Joshua, and they convey their teaching through Gary Temple Bodley. Each week, Gary, with a selection of law of attraction experts, open up a roundtable of thought-provoking discussions surrounding the teachings of Joshua. Joshua's intention is to bring clarity to the listeners through the ever-expanding law of attraction by looking at reality from a new perspective. Welcome to the teachings of Joshua Roundtable.
Happy New Year, everyone. This is episode 13 of the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable. I'm your host, Gary Temple Bodley. Today is January 2nd, 2016. We're going to talk about the new year on today's episode. Earlier in the week, I asked Joshua my own question. This is not easy for me to do because as soon as I formulate a question in my head, Joshua immediately answers it. So I have the answer before I even had time to think about the question. But I wrote my question down anyway and then let Joshua answer it so that you could all hear what they said to me. We will also discuss Joshua's quote of the week. If you want to receive the question of the week and the quote of the week each Saturday in your email box, just go to theteachingsofjoshua.com and sign up for the free newsletter. It's a good way to follow along with the show. On the roundtable today, we have Steve Finizza. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Gary.
And Janine Kodakovich. Hi, Janine.
Hi, Gary. Great to be here with all of you.
Awesome. And Michael is off this week, but we'll have him with us again next week. So today's episode, we're going to talk about the new year. And I had a question about how do we go about thinking about what we want in the coming year? Do we set goals? Do we have New Year's resolutions and stuff like that? And I want to get Joshua's take on that. So we'll talk all about goal setting and resolutions and intentions and stuff like that this episode. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about the quote of the week. Janine, do you have that up?
I do. Can you know that you are older, wiser, stronger, more confident, more loving, more beautiful, more caring, and more courageous than the person you see when you look in the mirror? Joshua.
I don't know. Can you?
Can I?
Yeah, tell me what you see.
I see a lot when I look in the mirror. I don't choose to look at older. I do choose to look at wiser, stronger, more confident, more loving, more beautiful. I'll tell you what, I don't know if you guys have ever done mirror work, but at the beginning it's very uncomfortable. And
so
then
what do you do? No, I haven't done that before.
You haven't?
Oh.
It's a way to practice self-love. You look in the mirror and, they say that person that you're going to meet in the mirror, which is self, is the most important person in your life. Right. And your relationship with that person affects everyone else. So you go through, you can do little affirmations. I've done that in the past. This quote made me think of it. That's all.
Yeah. For me, it's like, you sort of, well, you had mentioned before we were on the show that when you saw the word older, you thought they were talking physical age. And in this case, really, they're speaking about the fact that you are eternal and you've always existed. And that's the you that they're really talking about, the full you, the real you. And just like you said, the self that you look at. And I guess we're talking about the inner self as well.
Right. I'm glad that you clarified that because that actually gives the older much more perspective because when I did first read the quote, I choose to think age is a state of mind and I don't choose to think of myself as older, only wiser. So I'm so glad you clarified that. And I think it also clarified for the listeners too. So thanks for sharing that, Gary.
Yeah. Well, even physical age, though, there's nothing wrong with it because the reason there is aging, the reason we just don't be 32 years old for the rest of our lives is that as you get older, you get to see life from a new perspective. So every day, really, you're slowly evolving and you're seeing life again from a higher perspective. So how you saw life when you were 21 is completely different than how you see life now. And
Absolutely.
Some would say it's easier, but maybe not. Certainly when we're 21, we'll probably have more intense desires and more vivid dreams about what we intend to be, and then as we get older, that perspective changes. But I think that in this quote, it's really saying that we are limiting ourselves because we are so much more than we think we are. And the difference between who we really are and who we are now is just that limited belief that we have about ourselves. But it's an interesting quote to look at. And this is a really cute picture of a kid who's looking in a kaleidoscope, a set of mirrors.
I thought that was really, really a cool picture.
Yeah, Deborah Joe gets these great pictures, and it goes so cool with so many of these quotes. All these quotes are on the website too. It's fun to just look at them all. Steve, what did you think about in this quote?
There's been moments when I have looked in the mirror and I've actually glimpsed what I feel like is a much more confident and that eternal being I think that Joshua has described. And it's funny. It's almost like I call it Big Steve. Big Steve is smiling back at me, with this knowing kind of look, and it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of a moment, you might say, for me. That's but it doesn't. I can't say it happens often, but when it does happen, it's pretty cool.
If you can have that perspective that you are so much more powerful than you think you are, and you are so much more than you think you are, and you have access to so much more intelligence than you think you do. Yeah, but that you can those limiting beliefs start to fade away a little bit.
It's funny. I feel that. I can feel the. I think the way it just comes out is there's this immense confidence coming from this other guy, but he doesn't look at me with the eye of somebody who's. It's a loving, like it's where I'm at. Yeah. It's perfect.
Right.
And it's like you're on your. I almost get this thing like you're on your path. Don't worry about it. It's all going to work out. It's just kind of like he's taking care of me.
Well, that's those words are in this chapter 4 that we're going to talk about today of intentions in the first book. So we'll get to that too because that's pretty interesting.
Steve, I was going to just say that, I'm sorry, Gary. Steve, I was just going to say that's a wonderful thing, and that's the place we all want to get when we pass by the mirror. So even though you only have temporary, moments of that, it's a wonderful thing that you actually can have that experience.
I do appreciate them when they happen.
Yeah. So normally we talk about the topic, but this week we're going to change it up and we're going to read the question to Joshua first. And then we will talk about Joshua's answer. We'll take all the time that we want, which sometimes we don't get to do because if we put it at the end of the show, then we only have a certain amount of time to do it. Well, today we're going to change it up a little bit and have a little bit more time.
I like it.
So this is a question that I wrote on December 30th to Joshua about the New Year's. And for me, it's really hard to write these questions because I get the answers so fast that the question disappears. So I actually had to sit down and, write out the answer, knowing that Joshua would answer it in writing so that everyone else could benefit from it, not just me. Which is when someone else writes a question, I get sort of the answer of how that question relates to my life. But then when Joshua answers it, it's more tailored to the person who asked the question. So that's why it's a lot easier to do it for someone else than myself. I've been trying to go through this one-on-one program that Steve did, where you have to ask a bunch of questions quickly, and I find it very difficult. I'm only on question number 7 right now. And Steve, you did 100 questions in yours.
Yeah. It was hard, but I loved it. It was well worth it.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and read my question, and Steve will read Joshua's answer. Dear Joshua, New Year's Day is almost upon us, and at this time of year, we humans like to set goals for the next year. We also make resolutions. I have never been a goal setter, and I've never followed through on any resolution I've ever made. I would like to hear your perspective on this. How can we get all that we want in this new year?
Perfect timing. Because I want the answer to this too.
Yeah.
So,
as we all do.
Yeah. Dear Gary, Steve, and Janine. No. We prefer the word intention to goal. If you look at what you're doing when you set goals, it's more about the accumulation of stuff or status. When you set intentions, they tend to be more based in feelings. A goal might be to become salesman of the year or make $200,000, etc. You might set the intention to spend more time with loved ones, be happier, stay fit, enjoy more time in nature, etc. Intentions tend to be about enjoying and appreciating life. while goals tend to be about the man-made stuff of life. When you set an intention, it's to feel good. When you make a goal, it's to look good.
So that's interesting to think about. Yeah, I intend to spend more time with my family, or to go on to walk in nature more, or to exercise more. And these are all general intentions, and they're sort of qualitative. But a goal tends to be quantitative. And so the goal is more about, I want to make this much money, I want to get this accomplished or achievement done. And those are more about, man-made stuff that really has no real effect on your life. And as we go through this, you'll see more about what Josh was talking about.
Okay, I'll go on here. In a sense, you might spend more time looking at what you really want. Why do you want money, achievement, or success? It's because you think it will make you feel better. Why simply intend to feel better?
Why not simply intend to feel better?
Why? Oh, I'm missing part of my screen. Thanks. Why not simply intend to feel better? Wouldn't this accomplish the same thing? We see that you are working to feel better in each moment. You know that this is a feeling reality, and all you are ever doing is feeling. Since you understand this most basic and primary aspect of physical reality, you know that your only goal is to feel good.
So Joshua was talking to me specifically here and says that I, Gary, know that this is a feeling reality. And since I understand this most basic and primary aspect of physical reality, I know that my only goal, which is a funny thing to use the word goal there, is to feel good. Is to feel good, right?
Yes, it should be your intention. Should be to feel good.
Yeah, and so the reason that you set these goals is because you think by the attainment of the goals you'll feel good. Otherwise, you wouldn't set them, right? That's right. The only thing. But if you really understand that feeling is the only thing you're ever doing, and a goal is really something that you do in order to feel good, well, maybe you should just figure out a way to feel good anyway. And then that has ramifications on your reality as we'll go forward. Okay?
Yeah, there's a lot less pressure, too. You can feel good just, sitting in a room.
Yeah,
not doing
exactly.
Anything. Okay, I'll go on.
Exactly.
If you made a lot of money or won some accolades, you would feel good for a time. However, unless you are constantly intending to feel good in every moment, unless you make it a priority to feel good more and more of the time, your good feeling moments will be fleeting. Most people think that when they do something and feel good as a result, that the good feeling will last. It doesn't work this way, does it? As soon as the good feeling of an achievement subsides, the person reverts back to their baseline feeling. You must work on raising your baseline, not on achieving your goals.
So that's really interesting. You see this a lot when people accomplish a goal. It's like, okay, big deal, that's over with. Now what? And when they get to their goal, it's never doesn't feel good as they thought it would feel. And the good feeling is fleeting, so they need to, because their baseline is lower anyway of how they normally feel. Now, actually, this is a specific thing that I never understood before it was written down. So this is the reason I need to write these things down, because I know there's the brief, understanding of what this answer was in my head before I wrote it down. But this specific thing, talking about that if you're doing things to feel good, and you get those things, and they do feel good, they're only going to feel good for a little while, because you're going to revert really quickly to how you normally feel anyway.
Yes.
So if you start raising how you normally feel on a conscious level every day, and you do, I guess, do that by appreciating things and realizing how great you have it, and thinking more about the good things that are going on, and pivoting your thoughts when a negative thought comes up, you pivot it to a positive thought. All that stuff helps to help you feel better more and more. You raise your baseline, and then stuff happens, and we'll hear what happens after this. Okay, the next one.
This is the mundane work of appreciation and gratitude. This must become your habit. Setting intentions to feel good on a moment-by-moment basis is all the work you'll ever have to do. It also has universal implications. As you begin to feel better and better, your world will reflect your newfound feelings. Your better feelings will create a better feeling life.
So that's how reality works. Your life is created in a reflection of how you feel. So everything that's going on in your reality is just a reflection of what you're feeling, most of the time. And if you're feeling good most of the time, then mostly your world reflects those good feelings, and things happen that make you feel the way you're normally feeling. It's not the other way around. Things don't happen and then you feel good. It's you
Right.
feel good and then things happen, or you feel bad and then bad things happen. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a critical piece
Right.
to know.
So this is the mundane work of appreciation and gratitude on a minute by minute, moment by moment, daily basis. And this is what has to become your habit.
I've actually put well, normally it's a rubber band, but I couldn't find one recently. But I put my daughter's hairband around my wrist specifically to remind me to feel good and stay in a good spot, because I revert to my baseline and I forget that I'm supposed to work on feeling good.
Yeah.
So I look down and I go, why is that on my wrist? And I go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to feel good.
Well, it's even better that it's your daughter's hairband, because now you can think of her instead of just a rubber band.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you think of the easy things that make you feel good. So your children, and your spouse, and my dog in my case, and my friends. So that's the mundane work of what we need to be doing here. And I guess goal setting isn't part of that. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph.
Currently, you are caught up in the age-old cycle of achieving something and then feeling good for a bit, but reverting back to your habit of feeling. You still imagine that achievement is the path to feeling good. However, most achievers feel good first, and their achievement reinforces their good feelings. We suggest a better approach to all of this.
So isn't that pretty cool that most achievers feel good first? You think of the team that wins the Super Bowl and how elated they are after having won that Super Bowl. But the next week, they're back thinking about next year's Super Bowl, because they feel good in the process of what they're doing. They love playing football, and they love being around the team, and they love practice, and they love all the aspects of that. So it's the achievers don't achieve because they set goals. They achieve because they felt good first.
While they were achieving.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll go on.
Okay.
Get in the habit of setting intentions prior to anything. Forget about goals, because these come with expectations and the scrutiny of the result. Goal setting is result-oriented and does not leverage the powers of the universe. Intentionality is not about results and cannot be quantified. Intentions awaken you to look for what is wanted. They raise your vibration so that you move into the vibrational vicinity of what you want.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of goal setting, too, is trying to get out of where you are. I want a new car because I hate my current car. I want a new spouse because I hate my current spouse. Or I hate being lonely, that sort of thing.
Yes. You have to move towards what you want, not away from what you don't want.
Yeah, and goals, intentions, it seems like intentions just easily and automatically focus you in what is wanted and not away from what is not wanted.
And it doesn't rise up that fear that you can't make that goal.
Right. And plus, if you don't make the goal, everyone knows you didn't make it, right?
Yeah, so it probably brings up a whole lot more of insecurities in you.
Exactly. Yep. And in an intention, you can tell people of your intentions, but they're not going to hold you to them because they don't know if you've got them or not.
That's why too I tend not to set goals, rather intentions. As I got older, when I was younger, I set up goals for myself, but then you almost feel disappointed. Or if you express your goal to someone else and you don't reach it, you feel like you failed in some way. And
exactly.
As I'm getting older, and wiser, back to Joshua's quote, I honestly believe that that's not I'm not loving myself in doing that. So the setting an intention is a better approach to to accomplishing something.
It just works better, and it just
it works
utilizes
better, and it's more loving.
Right, it's more loving. And goals is more fearful. You can just see it. That if you think of intentions, just the word intention you could feel is a more loving thing, and the word goal is a more fearful thing.
Yep.
So as we're moving away from fear and towards love, that's one easy thing to look at right there.
Sure is.
Perfect timing. I think everybody needs to listen to this radio program.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting because so many people have asked me, oh, Janine, did you set any New Year's resolutions? Even like my mom's out of town and she said, so any new ideas? You know, I choose to look at it like you have a new book this year. So we could be on page 1 yesterday and page 2 today. But rather than set a goal, I'd rather, you know, and that's why all of this we're discussing today is just absolute divine, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Because you know what, I can express to other people that I have some intentions rather than, you know, we can talk our new vocabulary to other people, because the old Janine would have said, oh, this is my New Year's resolution, or these are my goals that I have in my life. But now I realize that setting the intentions, I don't know, it's almost like you reach your goals without putting the stress of a goal on you because it finds you.
It sort of seems like the intention is a command to the universe as well.
Ooh, that's powerful. I like that.
Yeah. So a goal is you're doing it by yourself, and the intention is you're leveraging the power of the universe and letting the universe do it for you.
I like the way that feels.
Yeah.
It does feel right.
Also, you know, if you make a goal, you're really putting yourself in the future. And if you set an intention, it seems like you're living in the day, in the moment when you're doing that.
Yeah, and don't you feel like when you attain a goal, it's like you mentioned the Super Bowl. Okay, that's great. And yes, you may come home to your city and have a parade and blah, 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 but you're already on to the next year planning, right? Because it's like been there, done that, check, next.
Yeah.
Versus intentions, you can set daily intentions every day when you pass that person in the mirror.
That's right. And that's really the point of intentions. It's not an intention. We don't set the intention for the year generally, which I guess we could do it because before we're born, we set an intention for our whole entire life. So you could do it for the year, but it seems like most intentions are done like before you go to a meeting or before, you know, when you're in bed and what you're thinking about for the day ahead, or, you know, right before you're about to do something. Like we did before this radio show, we set intentions for what we wanted to accomplish during the show, or how we wanted it to go, or how we wanted to be received. So it seems like it's more in the moment when you're doing intentions. All right, let's go to the next paragraph.
Everything you want is there waiting for you. When you set intentions to receive what is wanted, you move into the state of allowing. You do not achieve what you want. You do not force what you want to come to you. You always get what you want by allowing it to come. When you set a goal, you fear that you will not achieve it, and the fear prevents you from moving into a state of allowing. When you set a goal, you imagine that your action alone will hold the key to achieving that goal. However, if there is an action involved that you do not want to do, you must motivate yourself to take the action, and in doing so, you force yourself to do things that you don't like doing. This often causes you to experience feelings you would call bad. Can you see the irony? You're feeling bad now in an attempt to feel good later. We say, what's the point?
Right. I mean, I would, have these goals when I was selling real estate. And I have to say that the one thing I didn't like doing was sitting open houses, but it was really effective. So here I am trying to win the sales goals and beat everyone else, which I did all the time. And they're out having fun on the weekend, and I'm sitting in some house. And actually, we were selling foreclosures, so I was sitting in a really ugly, crappy house. And this is back before we had internet, so I had nothing to do in this house. I didn't even have a TV or anything. I'm sitting there in no air conditioning in a house by myself on Sunday when everyone else was at the beach. So there you go. So a lot of times you set these goals, and you're like, well, I'm assuming this is what I want. I'm assuming I want somehow to be the sales leader and to make money, but in retrospect, had I gone about it differently and just leveraged the powers of the universe by setting intentions that I would sell houses, I would skip this part of the job that I did not like. I liked everything else. I just didn't like that open house part of it.
Yeah.
Or you could use that time to meditate.
Yeah.
And reflect.
I don't think I was ready for meditation back then. But also another thing here is everything you want is there, is there. And when you set your intentions, you are tuning in to what you want. So you're changing the dial in your vibrational frequency that is within range of that thing you were intending. So it's there anyway. And so you can, if you're not intending to see it, you miss it. And that's the interesting thing about reality, is that everything you want is right there waiting for you. You're just going through with blinders on, and you can't see it or recognize it when it shows up. And intentions help you raise your vibration so that you get to that vibrational range of what you want. That's a lot of stuff in that one paragraph. It's amazing.
I was listening to Theo the other day. I don't know if another channeler, and they said that everything, the same thing. They said everything you want is there, and what you do is you create a thought bridge to get to it, meaning that there's no beliefs in your way between where you are currently and where it exists, what you want currently. And
right, no limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I never thought of it as in my mind as a thought bridge. I kind of resonated with that.
Yeah, and that's a good way to see it. I think by being in the right vibrational vicinity, you're receiving the thoughts and the impulses and the guidance that will lead you to where you want to go. Like for me, a huge thing I do is I intend to win poker tournaments. And I think a lot of it has to do with timing. So I intend to go when the timing is right. Because when you buy into a tournament, you get a seat number and a table, and you are put in this table with these other players, right? And depending on your table, it's either really easy or really hard, depending on the other players that are there. So if you could choose where to be sat, all else being equal, you'd have a tremendous advantage. So what I just do is I just know that I have to arrive somewhere between 12 and 2. And so I just allow whatever thoughts are going on. Do I stop and get gas first? Do I, make my shake earlier or later? Do I take the dog to Lily's store? All this stuff. And I just listen for what's going on in my head. And I don't fight anything. I don't fight the red lights. I don't try and make it through the red light. I know that if a red light happens, it's to slow me down, or things will happen to get me there faster. And, maybe this is a crazy way to think, but I think that by allowing everything to happen as it's happening, I am guided perfectly to the right timing to show up at this tournament and win all these tournaments that I win. It's a tremendous advantage, and don't tell Tim my secret, Janine.
I think he has a lot of secrets of his own. And might not share them as openly as you did, so we appreciate you.
I totally understand what you said, Gary, because I find it reduces stress, because if I'm going someplace or doing something, I just say it's unfolding in the right and perfect time, and as long as, because I notice the opposite. If I'm in a rush, all I bring is obstacles. It's like, oh, you're in a rush. Here, well then here we'll give you this, and that matches the vibration of being in a rush, right?
Yeah.
So when you get into that flow, things just work out.
When you understand that everything is working out and everything is right, I'd have to say that one understanding frees you up in this life to enjoy it more than anything else. When you're not responsible for changing anyone, when you perceive things as going against you or as really going for you, the stoplight is the easiest way to do it. When you come to a red light, and then now you just perceive that red light is there, on purpose to get you where you want to go perfectly, easily. And if you can have that frame of mind that all these things are happening to help you out, it just makes life so much easier.
Oh, it
Yes.
does. Absolutely. Tim and I were heading down south for an event on New Year's Eve,
Hmm.
and we just ran into a couple obstacles getting down south. And, he's like, he was very worried because we were supposed to be there at 7:30, and I'm like, well, or at 7 o'clock rather.
Oh.
And we, in our minds, we thought originally it was 7:30 until I looked at the invitation the day of and realized, oh my goodness, here we're planning for 7:30 and it's 7. On our way down there, he even looked at me and he goes, you know what, everything will work out just the way it's supposed to, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely. Let's call. I called ahead. They said, absolutely no problem. We'd appreciate if you get here before the show started. We had the best night because we just let it all flow. We just
Right.
called. We were respectful, due to the fact we were going to be a little late. We got there, made much better time than we originally anticipated when we made that phone call. And the whole night, just everything wonderful manifested. We were down at a casino and a big dinner and a show, and we won, and it was just such a fun night. But had we been, too worried about not getting there and, kind of got at it on the way down, the night would have never, we had so much fun together. We
Yeah.
laughed all night and everything positive, and we met wonderful people along the way. So it all worked out just like it should have, moment by moment.
I got to tell you about my best New Year's Eve ever. It was 2001, and we had taken a family trip to South Africa. So it was me and Lily, my brother and his wife, and their two kids. And on New Year's Eve, we found ourselves in Cape Town. And in South Africa, that's the middle of summer because obviously it's south of the equator. So everyone in South Africa goes to Cape Town for Christmas and New Year's. It's just a big thing. And all of the restaurants are sold out like by March. Every restaurant sold out. It's a huge thing down there. So there's a one special place called the Victoria and Alfred Waterfront. And it's the VA and waterfront. And it's beautiful shops and hotels and restaurants and right on the harbor, and all the cruise ships are there and the marine ships and even the warships are there. It's just an unbelievably fantastic place. Um, so we're in our bed and breakfast with the family, and we're saying like we're going to go out for New Year's, and they're like, "You're crazy! You can't go out." The people who are living there, the other people are staying there. You can't go anywhere New Year's. It's all booked up. You won't be able to get into anywhere. And we're like, well, we're going to go and do it anyway. So me and Lily and my mom go out, and my brother and his wife are like, forget it. We're not going with you. You're never going to find a place to go. So we drive down there. We actually stopped at one place ahead of time and had drinks and had so much fun. Met so many people there in this really cool old hotel. And then around 9 o'clock or 8:30, we leave to go and find a restaurant. So we're in the V&A, and it's like any big, huge outdoor place, and there must be 50 restaurants there, right? So we're going from one restaurant to one restaurant, sold out, sold out, sold out. And we basically at this time gave up. And so we walked to the end, which is the V&A Hotel, I think it's called. It's the super fancy, really expensive hotel. And we walk in, and right through the doors, and this hostess says, "How many is in your party?" And we said 3. And she sits us down. And it was the most incredible buffet. A guy comes over with champagne immediately, brings us everything, and the buffet was unbelievable. And then, so we're there for hours, and then all drinks are free, everything's free. And at midnight, there's a bagpipe band, and then the ships in the harbor all play a tune with their horns. It's all orchestrated, well in advance.
That.
So we had cheers, Happy New Year's, all these people around us, and the waiter comes, and we're like, "Can we have our bill?" And he's like, "Bill? You can't have a bill. This is sold out 3 years ago." And we're like, "What do we do?" And I said, "There's nothing we can do." And I said, "Well, how about we just leave you a big tip?" And he goes, "That's great."
Wow.
So we didn't even pay for it. Yeah.
Wow.
It was so funny.
That was similar to our night. Was totally, absolutely Compton free. Like a gourmet dinner, a show with this unbelievable band. The desserts were unbelievable. It was like this mango pancetta, but they served it in these gold globes that opened up, and they were lit inside with like almost, but not. It was a battery operated light. And all these globes came out. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I mean, and the night was free. The whole thing was comped. I mean, can't get better than that. Had
You
we
know,
said, oh,
yeah,
we're running late, we're not going to go, we would have never had that whole experience.
it's, and times like this, when that kind of synchronicity kicks in, how could you doubt everything we're talking about here? I mean, it's just, that's how things work in the universe.
And as you were telling your story, you said a key word that I was going to interject and say, I bet now is when it happens. You said, we gave up.
Right, as soon as we gave up.
Yeah, and I hear that over and over again. That people reach a point where they just give up, and I think that's when they release their action, and that's when the universe has a chance to just, okay, now it's our turn, and they kick in.
Well, if you're looking at that night, we were trying to make it happen. We were trying to force it to happen. We were doing action. In fact, I didn't even like the action because the action was going into these busy restaurants, talking to people, and getting rejected, right? So I let my mom do that part. And then we finally said, okay, this isn't going to work. Let's just walk around. And then that's when we all gave up. So it was a little tense at that point. But the second we gave up, we were guided to walk to the end of this pier and walk to this beautiful hotel just to see it. Just to go in into the lobby and see the hotel. And as we walk in, that's when we're greeted. Pretty amazing.
And I'm guessing Janine was already relaxed and not tense, and that's why her evening went comped.
Yeah.
It was. And you know what? And it's funny because when Tim and I discussed this, at first he was like sensing, he's like, oh, I'm not going to drive all the way down there if, we're late for our reservation and we can't get in, it is New Year's Eve. And just to put him at, bay and have him a little, calmer, I said, let me go ahead and call. And I'm like, who am I speaking with? Francisco, we're running a little late. Can you? And when we arrived, they're like, Mr. and Mrs. Kodakavage, so nice to see you. They could care less. We got there before the show. Like I said, everything worked out. You know what? But he already, because he listens to the show, so he already knew. He goes, hey, Janine, whatever's supposed to happen, it's going to happen, right? He looked right at me and said that. I go, you're absolutely right. So let's not stress about it.
It was interesting, too, because I had asked him what you guys were doing for New Year's, and he said that they're going to this thing, and he didn't seem very enthused about it, and was even maybe thinking of trying to get out of it.
Right.
So that,
because he did come home and he said, oh, how about dinner? And I'm like, Tim, I already RSVP'd. It's going to be a great night.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
And I said we would hook up with you another evening, but yeah. And then it worked out way better than expected. That was the most wonderful. And you know what, Gary, I could share a lot of pictures. I mean, Tim's not
fun.
big. I shared one picture with you, but Tim's not big with taking pictures and the camera and stuff. And I have so many great pictures of us just laughing and having a ball that night. So
it's so funny. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph.
Okay. If you would simply move toward a stance of feeling good in the moment, calling the moment perfect, and appreciating the moment in its perfection, everything you want would flow to you. By stating intentions upon greeting the new year, or new day, or new moment, you are becoming an allower, and you place yourself in the stance of recognition. This perfectly aligns with the forces of the universe as we know them.
That's a new phrase, stance of recognition. Yeah. So it's like stance of allowing, or but recognition is like you can see the things are coming to you,
and then you can appreciate them, and it keeps you in that. It's like a cycle that you get into. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, next one.
Most of the goals you set come from the influence of your society. You are good at comparing yourselves and judging everything. Wouldn't it be better to take your attention from others and recognize what it is that you want independent of that? If you were honest with yourself, you would want peace, freedom, love, fun, joy, and the open pursuit of your interests and passions. If you could have all that, would you really need anything else? And no, I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. If you could have all that, that's really what you want. You don't want the car or the house or anything.
I do want the car, but that's one of my passions.
That's your passion.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. I think that paragraph is just packed with information, as just the couple sentences, because it resonated with me, and I reread this like 3 times, because what would you want? Peace, freedom, love, fun, joy. Like we don't talk about joy that much, but honestly at this time of year we do. And that's how living with joy is one of the best things that you could possibly do. That's I wait for those moments.
If you could experience joy all the time, I mean, what would you trade that for? Nothing. That would be priceless.
Priceless.
Yeah.
And technically, you can be homeless and be in a state of joy.
If you guys read Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle was homeless when prior to writing that book, and he was in more joy than he had ever been in his life.
Wow.
Yeah, he said he was just sitting on a park bench, homeless. He said he had more ecstatic feelings of joy than anything else. Yeah, just sitting there in a state of joy. Interesting.
Yeah, I had an interaction with a homeless guy a few months ago, and he was saying how he has a lot more freedom than I did because
Right.
He didn't have to go to work.
He doesn't have to be worried about what others think either.
Yeah. To be able to just stand there is that would be a tough thing to do, to stand there with a sign, at least for me.
We're going to talk about this as we go into more about intentions, but in this chapter 4, Josh was saying that everyone intends to come to Earth to explore a certain aspect of physical reality for their own, growth, and that if you label something as not valid, like being homeless, that experience is not good. All these people trying to run around and save homeless people, and yet you can see that the homeless people are getting something out of it. And like Michael last week was talking about how he had this huge fear of being homeless, and you just know that Michael is never going to be homeless. It's not part of the things that he came here to explore.
Yeah, he wouldn't create that.
Right. He doesn't need to. He's
Right.
here to explore something different this time around.
People don't see homelessness as something that was created. They think it's something that just happened to somebody.
An effect, right? An effect of
Yeah,
being
a
lazy or whatever.
circumstance.
Of circumstance. But no, everything's created, and that is a valid experience just as anything is.
Oh.
There was a really cool Anthony Robbins show where these people had lost their house in foreclosure and lost their job, but they were getting by and stuff, and had a rental house, so they went to him for some help, and he says that what you need to do is change your perspective. So he took them to a homeless shelter, and they had to live there for like a week, 7 days, the couple in a homeless shelter, and it really changed their perspective about it, but it wasn't nearly as bad as they thought it was going to be. And the first couple of nights were scary and horrible, but pretty soon they were working there and working in the kitchen and helping other people. And then once they were out of there, it just gave them such an appreciation of their life because their vibration was so, not meant for there. It just shook them up a lot, and then they went on to really be successful.
They probably had the perspective that they were very poor and fearful of what was going to happen, and it probably showed them how much they really had.
I think what he was trying to say is, what's the worst that could happen? You could be in a homeless shelter. Well, let's go to a homeless shelter and see what that's like.
And it probably wasn't as bad as they thought.
Right. That show was incredible. It was a reality show, and it only lasted like 2 or 3 episodes. It was pretty cool. Okay, and the last paragraph here.
Okay, so we would conclude by stating that from our perspective, goals are not necessary, but intentions are vital. Make intention setting habitual. Practice feeling as good as you can in every moment. Don't count the years or the months or the days. Time is irrelevant. The purpose of time is to broaden your perspective. Raise your perspective and see that you have everything you need to feel good now. Joshua.
Yeah. It's pretty good. So, a goal is, when I achieve this goal, I'll feel good. And Josh was saying, raise your perspective and see that everything you need to feel good you have already right now. Yeah. And that's what you're trying to do with the goal, right? Is to feel good. But if you look around, you can feel good with what you have right now.
Yeah, and actually if you set that goal, you're setting yourself up for potentially not feeling good.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I like this.
Well, people don't understand that the only goal is to feel good, or the only thing we're here to do is to feel good.
Well, Gary, we're so happy you asked that question because we all benefited by Joshua's
I know.
Thank you.
I gotta do stuff more like this because it's really a lot of stuff in there, and I get the little skim off the top when it's in my head, but to write it down, it's there forever. It's a cool thing. Okay, so we have a little more time left. We
Yes,
have about 15 minutes.
and it was the chapter on intention,
Yes.
and
So,
I kind of wanted to just share something that I
yeah.
got out of it that really kind of helped me, because I go through life trying to, especially the people I really care about in my life, I want them to know about the spiritual laws of the universe, and I want to make their life easier, and I want everybody to know about this, right?
Right.
And sometimes I get frustrated when I find that other people just really don't want to hear it,
Right.
and they don't want to. So it says here, actually highlighted it.
Mhm. If you're reading this book, you want to know about the laws of the universe.
Right. He
And
says,
if people, yeah,
if you are here to more fully understand the laws of the universe, and in parentheses says, as you must be if you're reading and understanding this book,
right,
then many others are here without the desire to understand the laws of the universe. They are here to understand poverty, fear, hunger, power, greed, despair, abundance, pleasure, freedom, success, failure, sickness, health, vitality, ignorance, etc. For every aspect of life has value, which I think I've touched on this theme before, but it's like, it kind of sets me free. It's like, okay, I don't, it's okay for these people to, because they're here for their own experience. And I
right.
don't know what their intentions were to start with.
You don't know. You have no
Right.
idea.
And it just shows me that one of my intentions was learning about this or
Yeah.
rediscovering this, because obviously I knew about it before I came here.
All of us who are, involved in the show and listening to the show, we've come here because we're interested in learning more about the laws of the universe while we're living a physical existence at the same time. We all know the laws of the universe when we're non-physical, but for us, what's exciting, and there's a lot of us, is to learn the laws of the universe to, I don't know why exactly, maybe to, not to
Leverage.
change the world, certainly,
Well,
but to create the life that we really want,
yeah,
probably.
to maximize our experience here.
Yeah. But I think
Steve,
what,
there's no I'm sorry, Gary. I was going
go
to
ahead.
say, Steve, there's no coincidence that you just highlighted and spoke about that particular paragraph, because I reread that 3 times, because I realized in the past, Joshua went on to say something to the effect that if you want to help others because it makes you feel good, great. But if you're trying to change them or you think they need fixing, then don't do it. It was, I don't have it highlighted in front of me, but it was something to that effect.
That's
And
exactly
that's
right.
something in the past I would recognize something like, because my prayer is always to be an example to others, to help others in any way I can. And, in the past, I might have recognized something that I thought, ooh, maybe if I shared this with them, it might give them some insight or make it better for them. But you know what? You can't do that. We can't change another. You know what? So if it's and in that particular page, Joshua is basically saying, if it makes you feel good, then do it, but don't do it because you think they're going to benefit by it, because So I that really resonated with me.
And the reason you help someone is because you do it for a selfish reason anyway. You help them so you'll feel better. For instance, if you want someone close to you to be as into this stuff as we are, it's only because you think it'll be more fun if they're into it like you are. I think that our spouses are all on different levels than we are. Um,
Yeah.
Lily, for one, is pretty high up there. Yet, she'll go by complaining and doing things that she knows is not part of getting what she wants. And if I say anything, forget about it. She does not want me saying anything at all. She gets really mad at me. And the only reason I'm saying anything is because I want to fix her, because it'll make me feel better. So she won't complain about my socks on the floor and things like that.
Yeah, that's my challenge, is when I see where my wife or something or kids are saying something out of that I know is not following the laws of the universe, and they are so tired of me bringing it up that
Right.
I just have to bite my tongue and go,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean, but it's hard for me.
Well, this was in the book, from our limited perspectives, we believe that there are good experiences of life and bad experiences of life. But from our non-physical perspective and the knowledge of our own past lives, right? We chose this current life in order to experience something more than previous lives. So we've chosen the life that we have now on purpose. and there's a reason for it, and we're ready for it too. By the way, if you choose something, say poverty, for instance, well, the poverty for me would be much worse than it is for the person who's experienced poverty, because I'm not here to experience poverty this time around, or homelessness, for instance. I could not be homeless, but I'm not here to experience homelessness. But the person who is homeless, it's a lot easier for them than it is for us, because they're ready for it. And that's how you see. That's probably an ancient Christian saying, is that God doesn't give you stuff you're not ready for.
See,
Have you heard that before?
I have, but I always wondered, how do you know what you're ready for? Like, I'll admit, like, I still have, like, in the back of my mind, okay, suppose things start really going bad for me, and I do end up, in foreclosure or something, losing the house. I always wondered, how do I know that the universe doesn't have this, like, oh, this is an experience I need to go through. It's going to, and I don't want that experience. I don't want that experience.
Right. Okay, so I'll tell you that foreclosure is the perfect thing, because it happened to me. So we went through massive foreclosure. Let's see, I lost commercial development that was building 28, 35 townhouses. I lost my office building. I lost our dream house. I lost the house we were living in. And we lost these beautiful lot on the lake in Delray where we're going to build 2 houses. So we lost all that. Then we moved from that house that we were living in, that we lost, and we didn't actually lose it at this point. It was in foreclosure, but that one lasted forever. We moved to this unbelievably serene house on the Lockhatchee River that bordered a state park. So we had massive amounts of wildlife, which we had never been accustomed to, because we lived in the middle of Florida. South Florida, for our whole lives. We're not used to ospreys and manatees and otters and deer and turkeys all in our yard, right? And this was a really remote area. If you look on the map, you say, well, that's pretty close to everything. But for us, it took 20 minutes to get to 95 and 25 minutes to get back to our friends' houses and stuff like that. So we were pretty much by ourselves. But if you look at that house, it was absolutely spectacular. The view was incredible. The house, we ended up renovating it anyway, and by all measure, it was a great place to live. Yet we were in the depths of despair, having to go through this financial crisis, and it still wasn't that bad. But to other people, like my father and parents, it was like, to them, that would have been the worst thing in the world, to lose, to have all this stuff go into foreclosure. So for us, it was the least traumatic thing to get us from where we were to where we are now. And we had to go through that. And it was sort of traumatic, but in looking at it now, I see it totally differently, because, when you're in it, you're like a little bit, I didn't go to work anymore, where I was working out of the house. So we were spending a lot more time together. And that whole situation caused someone to give us The Secret. And we would go in the car. We didn't have a CD player, so we listened to The Secret in the car. We'd drive around forever. We'd listen to it 100 times. And then Lily, looking for another thing that we can listen to in the car, pulled out Ask and It Is Given by Abraham-Hicks. And we listened to that in the car. And we go, oh my God, this is it, right? It's sparked. Yet we had owned this CD for 5 years and had listened to it before. And it didn't spark back then, it just sparked now. So we had to go through this life-changing, vibration-changing event to get to that next step. And that step eventually led to Joshua.
So ultimately, I can see that it was super good for you to do this, but it doesn't. It's still, so essentially what my perspective is, well, I should take the perspective that if I do have a foreclosure, then
you're not going to have a foreclosure, but if you do have
but
to
if I
have
do,
anything,
it's not that bad.
Right. Whatever's going to happen to you is not going to be that bad. And at the end of it, on the other side of it, you'll be thankful it happened.
Yeah, but it'd be just nice to know that, it'd just be nice to know that it'd be great to have like a trajectory of abundance from this point forward. It's just like, and to know that would be kind of cool, instead of, well, I know this is all about experience and what does the universe have in store for me. It's almost like I feel like I would rather be in charge here than maybe my higher self knowing something that I don't physically know.
I can see what you're fearing, but you really realize that the fear isn't real. You're just fearing your untrained imagination. So what I will tell you though is in here Joshua will not tell people what their specific intentions are, because if they knew that, they would take action
and screw it up. Yeah, right. He told me that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of your questions, right?
Yeah.
But so I think that the one thing you can rest assured is that, first of all, you're at a totally different place than I was. My whole being was based on money and looking good, right? And fitting in with this crowd. And it wasn't Joshua at all. I had when Lily's 50th birthday, I had a palm reader say to me that something huge is going to happen, and it's not the business you're in now, and it's not this, it's something really big. And now I realize that she's talking about Joshua. Oh. But she couldn't tell me what it was, and had I known what it was, right? Can you imagine that? You're going to be channeling a group of non-physical teachers, right? I'm like, oh yeah. So I couldn't get here from there without going through that. And that really, if you look back on it, we were never worried. We always went out to restaurants. I mean, we were worried, but we never had reason to be worried. We never were late on any other payments. We always had money flowing in some weird way. Like one time, the house that we had to move out of, we had sold it, and the people backed out 3 days before closing, and we had already moved, right, and bought this other house or gotten this other house. And the other house we got happened to be from friends of ours who needed to move to another school district. So we got this house, and then we ended up buying it and remodeling. But the previous house stayed there. And so we rented it out. And at some point, when we needed money, I go to collect the rent. I would just walk in, and the guy had tons of money and would just leave $100 bills in the drawer in the kitchen, and I would just count out $3,000 every month, right? And just take it. Wow. Such a funny thing. But I walk in one day, and I step on the wood floor, and a gush of water comes up, and a line had popped out of the dishwasher and had flooded the whole place. So immediately I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. So we call, the company comes in, they clean it up, and then the insurance company comes in, and it was just a little bit of wood that we had to replace, but they paid to replace the insurance, all the cabinets and all the floor for the whole house, and it turned out to be like $45,000 or some amazing amount of money. And so that we got a check for $45,000, but it was made out to us and the bank who had the mortgage. And so Lily just took it to our bank in Palm Beach, to the girl that she knows, casually talking, deposit in her account, and there was $45,000 right there.
Perfect timing.
Stuff like that was happening all the time. And out of the blue, people were calling me to do real estate deals. And so looking back on this, what seemed traumatic was just totally easy. And our lifestyle didn't even change. And then 5 years later, we're back to where we were, just about.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
Steve, I was going to say, for you, since you already have the awareness, why not change the story? Like change the words, change the thoughts, and have those thoughts be of abundance. And don't even entertain the other thoughts.
If I totally am on board with that, Janine, it frustrates me that I even have a nugget of this still. It's like I try not to beat myself up for it, because I know that's even bad, right?
Of course.
But
You are already so far ahead that you're starting to perceive reality in a way that is completely beneficial and goes towards what you want. So and I think it's when you're following your passions, which this is your passion, you're living on your path, and there's no need for anything to arise.
It does feel old, and I feel like it's about to go away. But it's old Steve, the last vestiges of old Steve, like trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And you know
All
what?
right.
Just like we discussed earlier, second by second, minute by minute, day by day, like it's
Yeah,
you know
right.
that's going. New
Yeah.
things are on the horizon.
Cool.
Okay, you guys, we come to the end of another wonderful show. Feel free, everyone out there listening, to send in a question to Joshua. It is really fun for us to answer these, for me to answer these questions, Joshua as well. It's the best part of my day. I get up every morning. I go to my tablet and look at all the questions that came in, and then I'll go back and meditate, and then come in and for about an hour or so, I'll answer 2 or 3 questions. So it's the best time of day for me, and it's really clarifying. And then we get to share these with other people on the website and stuff too. So feel free to ask questions. Janine, you've got a question, please send that in.
I do. I will.
We may
Thank
or may
you.
not talk about it in the show, but at least it'll be there on the website one day. And
Great.
everyone, have a great new year, and let's have intentions that this is a peaceful year for everyone, and that for you personally it's peaceful, and things are going on in the world that seem crazy. That has nothing to do with you. Your life, your family, your neighborhood, your community, that's the peace that you seek. And I'm looking for that, and I'm going to intend to have joy and fun and win a lot of poker tournaments, especially today is a big one. And what are you guys going to intend?
Being aware of being happy all the time, or being joyful.
Yes. And
I'm with Steve on that. I'm with Steve on that one. I'm living with fulfilling passions. I'm living, with a lot of self-love, because the old Janine would have criticized myself for this or that, and I'm just not doing that anymore.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Intend to love yourself.
So
on
happy
that
New
note,
Year to everybody.
I will bid you adieu.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Teachings of Joshua Roundtable with Gary Temple Bodley. We will be back next week with another fun discussion. If you would like to ask Joshua a question or read more of Joshua's teachings, please visit us at theteachingsofjoshua.com. See you next week.